Jason Momoa was born on August 1st, 1979, in Honolulu, Hawaii, a place where land and ocean breathe as one. His name, meaning eyes of knowledge, would one day feel prophetic. His father, Joseph Momoa, a native Hawaiian artist, taught him that creation was not vanity but ancestry, while his mother, Connie Lemke, a photographer of European and indigenous roots, showed him how light and shadow coexist. Yet love alone could not hold the family together. When Jason was still very young, his parents separated, and he was taken far from the islands to Norwalk, Iowa. The warmth of salt air was replaced by snow and silence. For a child who had known waves as lullabies, the Midwest felt endless and empty. That early displacement planted a quiet ache within him, one that would later surface in every warrior he portrayed on screen. Growing up, invisible in the heartland, life in Iowa taught Jason Momoa lessons no classroom ever could. Raised by a single mother who worked tirelessly, he learned early that survival required resilience and empathy in equal measure. He was different from the other children, taller, quieter, carrying an unplaceable longing that made him feel unseen. While others found comfort in routine, Jason felt the absence of something essential, a sense of belonging he could not name. Loneliness became his first teacher. He learned to observe rather than speak, to endure rather than complain. Years later, he would explain that every powerful character he played was born in those moments of isolation, when strength had to be imagined before it could be lived. Iowa did not break him, but it hardened his resolve, shaping a young man who learned to stand alone long before the world ever noticed him, returning to Hawaii with nothing but hope. At 19, Jason returned to Hawaii, not as a triumphant son, but as a restless young man with more hunger than certainty. The ocean welcomed him back, but reality was unforgiving. He worked in a surf shop on the North Shore, scraping by on modest wages, sometimes unsure where he would sleep. Nights were spent listening to waves from benches or cramped rooms heavy with damp air and doubt. Hunger and exhaustion became familiar companions, yet surrender never crossed his mind. The fire inside him refused to go out. Then, in 1999, chance intervened when designer Takeo Kobayashi noticed him and encouraged him to model. That small moment became a turning point. Winning Hawaii's Model of the Year brought fleeting recognition, but more importantly, it planted belief. For the first time, Jason felt the world whisper that he might belong somewhere after all. Learning the craft through grit, Jason Momoa's entry into acting was not paved with ease. Landing a role on Baywatch Hawaii exposed him to cameras, scripts, and long production days, but it also demanded discipline. The work was physical and repetitive, yet it offered stability and education. Each scene taught him how to exist on camera without losing authenticity. His breakthrough came with Stargate Atlantis in 2005, where he endured demanding stunts, intense schedules, and physical strain over multiple seasons. The role required endurance as much as talent, shaping his work ethic and sharpening his instincts. Every bruise and sleepless night reinforced lessons learned in Iowa and Hawaii. Perseverance matters more than comfort. Jason was no longer just surviving, he was forging himself through effort. These years laid the foundation for the commanding presence that would later captivate global audiences, creating his own destiny. By his late 20s, Jason Momoa realized that waiting for opportunity meant surrendering control. In 2010, he founded his own production company, Pride of Gypsies, determined to tell stories rooted in authenticity and culture. This decision marked a shift from dependence to agency. He wanted narratives that honored heritage, resilience, and humanity rather than fitting into narrow expectations. Shortly after, Game of Thrones changed his life. Auditioning for Khal Drogo, Jason performed a haka, channeling ancestral power and raw emotion. The room fell silent. The role transformed him into a symbol of strength worldwide. Yet fame proved fleeting. When Drogo's arc ended, opportunity slowed and uncertainty returned. Jason later admitted that this period tested him deeply, reminding him that recognition can vanish overnight. What sustained him was purpose, family, and an unyielding refusal to abandon his path, rising from silence to the sea. When the industry seemed to turn away, Jason Momoa did not retreat. Instead, he prepared, training relentlessly, refining his craft, and trusting that patience would be rewarded. In 2016, the call came that aligned fate with metaphor. Aquaman, the ocean, once his childhood anchor, became his cinematic destiny. Physical preparation was intense, demanding discipline, endurance, and mental focus. He committed fully, embracing the role not just as a superhero, but as a protector of the sea. When Aquaman premiered in 2018, it shattered expectations, earning over $1 billion worldwide and cementing Jason's status as a leading man. The success was undeniable, but to Jason, it represented more than numbers. It was validation for the boy who once felt forgotten, proof that perseverance could turn isolation into triumph without erasing humility, love, family, and fragile joy. Long before global fame, Jason Momoa carried a quiet dream of love, inspired by Lisa Bonet. Meeting her years later felt unreal, and their relationship unfolded slowly, rooted in mutual respect and creative spirit. Together they built a family, welcoming 2 children and creating a life that appeared radiant from the outside. Jason embraced fatherhood with devotion, determined to give his children what he had missed growing up. Yet fame brings distance, and time reshapes even the strongest bonds. In 2022, Jason and Lisa announced their separation with grace and mutual care. The loss was deeply personal, marking another chapter of transformation rather than failure. Jason later reflected that love does not always end. Sometimes it changes form. Through co-parenting and respect, they preserved family beyond romance, proving strength can exist alongside vulnerability. The cost of a physical life. Jason Momoa's roles demanded physical intensity, and over time that intensity left its mark. Years of stunts, training, and action sequences took a toll on his body, requiring careful management and recovery. Injuries, while part of the profession, served as reminders of mortality rather than invincibility. Jason has spoken openly about listening to his body now, moving with intention rather than recklessness. These experiences grounded him, reinforcing that strength is not endless but earned and maintained. The scars he carries are not symbols of damage, but of commitment. They represent stories told through motion and sacrifice. Aging, he acknowledges, is not an enemy, but a teacher. Each ache reminds him to choose purpose over excess and longevity over bravado, reshaping how he approaches both work and life. Choosing purpose over excess. Despite success, Jason Momoa has never fully embraced Hollywood excess. He prefers simplicity, creativity, and connection to nature. Retreating to quieter spaces, restoring motorcycles, playing music and painting, he reconnects with himself beyond cameras. His activism reflects this grounded philosophy. Deeply committed to environmental protection, he advocates fiercely for clean oceans and indigenous rights. Launching Mananalu Water, he aimed to reduce plastic waste, aligning business with values. Jason uses his platform not for spectacle, but for responsibility, believing fame should serve something larger. His work off-screen mirrors his on-screen heroes, driven by protection rather than conquest. Purpose for him is measured not in wealth, but in impact. These choices reflect a man who understands that legacy is not built by what you accumulate, but by what you preserve for those who follow. The warrior who endures. At 46, Jason Momoa stands not as an untouchable icon, but as a man shaped by loss, love, resilience, and growth. His journey from Honolulu to Iowa, from anonymity to global recognition, carries the weight of lived experience. Fatherhood remains his greatest role, guiding his children with the wisdom earned through hardship. He teaches them to honor heritage, embrace nature, and face adversity without fear. Jason's story is not one of perfection, but of endurance. He embodies the truth that warriors are not defined by invulnerability, but by the courage to rise again. The ocean he carries within him still calls, not as escape, but as reminder, that even when the world shifts, identity rooted in truth remains unbreakable, steady as the tide itself.